everyone. Thanks for joining Meet the Researchers with the Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center, or SARC. This is our way of sharing a little bit about the exciting projects we're working on and how you can become involved. Today I'll be joined by Dr. Melmed, the Medical Director of the Melmed Center and the Medical Director and co-founder of SARC. Thanks so much for joining me today, Dr. Melmed.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, Dr. Melmed, few people know that SARC was founded on clinical trial research. What drew you and SARC to clinical trials back then?
Well, before 20 years ago, autism was kind of in the dark ages. It had been in a lot worse ages before that time, but there was certainly very little known, and there were very few services, there was very little support, and there were very few answers. And the initial group of parents who got together to think about, SARC, we had the mantra in mind to answer questions and to question answers. So there were so many questions being asked of me as a developmental pediatrician, and they were saying, should we do this? Should we do a diet? Should we try a behavioral intervention? And there was very little research at all. And I didn't know the answers. And they said, you know what, that's unacceptable. You have to know the answers. You're a doctor. If you're not going to know them, who's going to know them? So we thought, okay, then we got to start something. We got to start at least answering the questions. But once we started answering questions, we realized we weren't always necessarily on the right track. It was each researcher or each doctor would do in their own eyes, which was right. There were very little evidence-based. There were very interventions. There was at least none of which had been studied systematically. So we were flying blind, and we needed to question those answers and not just to accept anecdotal reports as the truth.
How would you say the trials are different now compared to how they were 20 years ago when you got started?
When we first got started, we were doing things on a shoestring. We also took a lot of parents' anecdotal reports into account, and parents really directed a lot of what we thought. So a parent would come in and say, we've been trying this particular supplement, and it appears to be working absolutely wonderfully, and I think it's something that you should definitely do. So without really knowing the mechanism of action, without really understanding the molecule, without having any trials to see the safety of the molecule, not only for humans, for that matter, but even for rats or other laboratory animals, we were doing trials which we probably shouldn't have been doing at that time. Ever since then, we've been so ever cautious about ensuring that our research standards, our research protocols, the methods with which we study this, taking parents' input into consideration, but making sure that there are double-blind, well-controlled studies, which are done not only at SARC, but right throughout the country, so it wouldn't be our bias per se. Those are the important new developments. They're not new. They've been around for ages. But it took a while for SARC to become the mature research center it is today. It certainly took the first 5 or 10 years for that to happen.
So my last question for you is that there might be some families watching who are interested in participating in research, but they don't know what to expect. So what might you say to families who are considering participating in a clinical trial at SARC?
Well, first of all, it's the most important reason to participate in a study is to advance the science. There is a group effort involved. The science will not move forward just by some person in a white coat in a lab dissecting a mouse and figuring out what the answer is going to be. It's going to be a combination of companies willing to spend the money to do the trials correctly. It's going to be research centers such as SARC being able to execute the trial. And the third, and probably the most important leg of all, are the families who are going to say, we are going to participate in this effort, whether or not even it's going to make a difference for my particular child. But we know that for the greater good and to raise everyone's boat, we have to participate in this effort, because if that's not done, we'll never get off the ground.
That is some really, really great insight, Dr. Melmed. Thank you so much. So to people watching at home, if you are interested in learning more about SARC research, click on the link on your screen to fill out an online interest form, and a member of our research team will contact you. You can also visit SARC's website, autismcenter.org. Thank you again, Dr. Melmed, for joining me today. And thank you to our viewers at home. We will see you next time on SARC's Meet the Researchers.